What's up, Sonic movie fans, and welcome to the Sonic Movie Show, episode 81, the only show that's about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me, as always, is Devin.
Yeah, these motherfuckers work.
I remember that line. Also, before we begin, I'd like to congratulate us, Devin, on the 1-year anniversary of us forgetting our 1-year anniversary, which we also did 2 years later, because last week was our 2-year anniversary, and we forgot to mention it. So happy 2-year anniversary of the Sonic Movie Show. Yeah, it's like
Wait,
April,
was it on 420?
It was April 17th.
Oh.
Was when our first episode aired.
We should have waited 3 days for the meme.
And last episode was on the 18th, so we fucked up.
Fuck. We always mess. We'll forget it in a year from now, too.
I mean, I remember we talked about it like late March. Be like, oh yeah, let's not forget. And then we were talking about a really bad movie.
We gotta make a calendar event on your phone and be like, don't forget this. Like just write like wife's anniversary instead. See,
hey Siri, remind me on April 17th, 2022, that it's the Sonic Movie Show's 3rd anniversary.
Okay, your reminder is set for April 17th, 2022.
Thank you. In any case, today's episode of the Sonic Movie Show, we're reviewing a video game movie that's hot off the presses, a direct sequel to 1997's Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yep, exact same.
No,
I watched it. It was weird. They were having sex too. I watched it on Pornhub. No, I'm kidding.
That was on the Mortal Kombat subreddit. People were like, "I think I'm watching the wrong Mortal Kombat," and it just shows like someone that looks like Sonya Blade just getting bent over by like Shao Kahn or some shit.
Video game porn parodies are like a weird thing. And I'm not saying it's a weird thing. If that's your thing, cool. But like, they all of a sudden just started popping up like the past 5 years or so. Here's an Overwatch one. Here's a this.
They realize
like,
the gamers are the most loneliest and the most horniest,
and they're willing to spend money.
Yeah, probably that's also it.
They're willing to spend. They're gonna buy all these loot boxes. They're gonna subscribe to whatever they need to subscribe to, or pay per view whatever they want to pay per view.
Yeah, for me, it was always like, man, what would Katana look like if she was just getting plowed? You know, that's always been something I've aspired to see one day, but I ain't going to pay for it.
And we didn't see that this time. We're actually talking about the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie, obviously the movie that is the episode title of this show. We just watched it today. It is the day it came out, April 23rd, as of this recording. This episode probably came out earlier than normal if you're listening to this, as it's hot off the presses. And yeah, this is going to be our topic for today. So before we begin, ultimately, I want a refresher on what your expectations were going into this film. Devoid of what you know now, what were you expecting going in?
So last episode, we briefly discussed, some of our predictions or what we wanted from a Mortal Kombat movie. Because this is a reboot, basically. I don't think it even acknowledges the other movies at all throughout. I guess that's a spoiler, but also not.
Yeah, sorry. Forgot to mention, we are spoiling the movie.
Yeah.
I would imagine you knew that.
That's not really a spoiler, though, because you could probably just tell from the trailer, like, oh, this isn't going to be like the other ones. Oh, there's characters that are alive in this that aren't in the other ones or died in the previous movies.
Although I guess the argument would be, if it was a continuation, that would be a spoiler, because that would be a cool surprise.
I don't know any people out there who actually listen to reviews before actually seeing the movie, so whatever. Yeah, so our at least I remember some of the things we said were like, we hope the fights are good because it's Mortal Kombat. It's a fighting game. We want the fights to be good, the choreography to be good. I think that was our number one thing. Like everything else, like a good plot, yes, we want that. But at the end of the day, the number one thing we want, or why we're even watching this movie, is because we want a gory bloodbath of fights to happen on screen and for us to cheer or laugh or get angry at. I don't know which, depending on how you're playing Mortal Kombat sometimes. That's kind of the number one thing that we wanted. I wanted there to be certain characters maybe be in it. We try to guess maybe there would be any characters that weren't shown in the trailers that were going to be in it that were surprising. I remember we just wanted a solid film. We didn't want like a groundbreaking, wow, this movie's art level of, we don't want that kind of expectation on this film, which I think it would have been fair anyways. We didn't even going into that with the Sonic movie. that the show is based off of. We didn't go in being like, this needs to be critically acclaimed 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for this to be considered a good video game movie. A video game movie doesn't necessarily have to be good critically, I could argue, to be a video game movie. It just has to be, I think, fun and, committed to its IP that it's based off of.
Right.
We saw what Sonic did, and we felt like it did a great job. Maybe the movie isn't amazing, but it's a solid movie. It's good. Compared to other video game movies, it's great. Detective Pikachu is another one of those. I think that our expectation going in is it doesn't need to be that level. It just needs to be solid. It needs to be fun. Hopefully it keeps this ball kind of rolling of just solid video game movies. If it's good, awesome. That's great. We want it to be a good movie. I think it's good for video game movies as a whole if this movie is good. We had Monster Hunter come out and that movie stunk. So we're kind of worried that like, is Monster Hunter, if we get another stinker, will that derail the video game movie future as a whole of being taken more seriously, or bigger budgets, more money made in the box office, like early Marvel movies, right? Or early superhero movies in general. People are like, superhero movies aren't going to work. Or like Spider-Man 3 is the peak of, superhero movies. Spider-Man 2, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, that's the best you can make a superhero movie.
Although I would argue that Spider-Man 3 is more fun to watch than 2. And that's a hot take. But I will say the Monster Hunter movie was like, nope, they still don't have it. Like, we were getting a few that were like, okay, this is good. No, they still can be bad. Don't forget, they can be bad.
Yeah.
My expectations going into this or my hopes rather, I was expecting 100% that the fights were going to be good. Otherwise, what the hell were they doing? Like, you didn't try if the fights weren't good. But my hope was that the context surrounding the fights would make a bit more sense rather than just like set pieces. We have this lot out back that looks kind of mountainy, so let's put Sonya Blade and Jax walking up the mountain and now they fight someone. Besides that kind of stuff, actual context to fit in the story and why all of a sudden this wacky new guy is fighting our hero, etc. And that was all my hopes for this movie was. Now, we watched the movie. I watched a few hours earlier than you did, so my memory on the order of events aren't as fresh as yours. But I'd still like to try to do a recap for this one. Obviously, you guys have probably already seen this movie, so if you haven't seen this movie, obviously go watch it before you hear us talk about the rest of this stuff.
So before we do that, though, I think we should say whether or not we just generally liked it, hated it, like we normally do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I will say this because it ties into the beginning of the movie for me. The context is there. Like the fights, obviously immediately you saw that the way that the shots were of the fights, how the fights were shot rather, was immediately cued me in of like, oh yes, of course they did take this seriously. This is easily identifiable as a step above those 90s movies, duh. And then the context of why they showed this fight first and how that leads in the rest of the movie after watching more of the movie, it was like, yes, that had a purpose. That wasn't just, we want to make sure we have a cool Chinese versus Japanese ancient fight type of thing. Besides that, you know what I mean? It had context. And I will say all of the context was there for me. I thought the movie was fun. I think pacing wise, it goes very fast very early and then slows way down, and by the end I'm like, wait a second, that was the climax? I thought there was going to be another one. Oh, sequel. Okay, fine, sure. I'm like, wait, we're already halfway through this movie? But like, because it was going really fast, getting everyone where it needed to be, and then it slowed way down.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Personally, for me, I'd rather that movie be quick and fast to get us to something rather than what the previous movies did, or in just the idea of this type of movie in general where it takes forever to introduce everyone and then you have 30 minutes left to actually have them do anything. You know what I mean? I'd rather this happen. I do kind of wish that there was more of like, and the fights were longer towards the end. I feel like they didn't have as much time for that kind of stuff. But overall, I had fun. I mean, I wasn't expecting like a strong theme or like a hero's journey or anything like that. We didn't really get that. Like, there's an argument that it exists, but I don't think it's done very well. But I also don't think that it even tried, which maybe isn't a bad thing. What did you think about the movie?
Yeah, I was gonna say you kind of hit the nail on the head with I think everything I'm thinking. Honestly, it definitely starts. I think it starts amazingly. I think it's perfect, and it kind of sets.
It was dope opening.
It was freaking dope. I know that they were advertising it on like YouTube. Like you can watch the first 7 minutes. And
I didn't do that.
I didn't do that either, but because I didn't want to get spoiled or have a different impression going in. Yeah, the first 7 minutes are just awesome. First 15 minutes are awesome, and yeah, just I like the idea of them kind of starting it off with Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I mean, those are like the main faces of Mortal Kombat outside of Liu Kang, probably. But I think most people
got demoted in this movie compared to the last movie.
Yeah, which I found surprising.
Like he almost has no character to him.
Yeah, that's my one critique of this movie is I don't really like Cole Young. I think he's fine, but I just don't know why they decided to go with a new character or because he's new to my knowledge. I tried looking him up. There's no other person in Mortal Kombat called Cole Young.
It reeks to me of, hey, we have this crazy property that we're going to make a movie of. And man, there's all these wacky, crazy characters going on. The random mom and dad taking their kid to see this, they're not going to know who any of these people are. Let's introduce a character that they can start their identity with that will guide them through this world. That's what it seemed to me at first.
Yeah.
And then like watching through, again, obviously spoilers, I'm like, oh, well, Devin thought this guy was going to be like a Sub-Zero like offspring future man. No, it's actually going to be he's going to be Scorpion. Well, he's not actually Scorpion, but perhaps if they put him in a game, he would have Scorpion-esque moves. Like, I was expecting his suit to finish at some point. Instead, it's just like he has
like off-brand Aquaman armor or something.
It actually reminded me of the Wonder Woman thing, but you're right. It has the weird gold, like kind of circly things because it's meant to mimic the handle of the kunai that was left behind by his scorpion ancestor, who names himself after the English word for the animal, his Japanese one. But yeah, I mean, like I think the character was fine, but I am a bit surprised as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this was NetherRealm's attempt at trying to, in the future for a new Mortal Kombat game, being like, hey, that guy from the movie is on the box. He might not be the main dude, but like we have an opportunity to expand the lore here, even if this isn't the lore of our game series. We have the opportunity to introduce something that's new to those players that we can then maybe bring back. As soon as I saw he had Tonfas, I'm like, all right, he's not Scorpion exactly. He's not immediately turning into him. I still thought he was going to have.
He's
it
not even
eventually.
really just another ninja either. He's kind of his own thing,
right? I mean, he's an MMA fighter, so he would have to undergo training to all of a sudden act like. Although in the beginning, the Scorpion of the past was pretty much a samurai, not really a ninja. The way his stances were, but as soon as he had Tonfas, I'm like, oh, maybe they are doing something new. But maybe he'll get the throwy thingy he can do later. And at the end of it, obviously he's a new guy. I think it's smart. I think at the very least, regardless of if it's something they should have done or not, it could have been a whole lot worse.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it could have been. It wasn't terrible. I just think it was a little boring and kind of just like, eh. If anything, I think Kano stole the show. Multiple scenes. For the most part.
Really? I hated Kano.
You're not supposed to like him. He's an asshole.
Yeah, but like even then, like he just too much talking in a way that isn't even what I feel like the point of it was. I obviously understood he's supposed to be like a comic relief bad guy that like gets under your nerves and breaks tension on scenes in a way that isn't 100%. Like, you know, an Avengers movie, well, I
think for me,
funny.
He stole scenes because some of the characters either had dialogue that just wasn't that interesting, or they just weren't bringing the same energy. I just feel like he was doing his own thing. So I feel like I was more just like, I'm like, yay, he's talking. Cool.
If they toned it down to 70%, I feel like I would be on the same boat.
Because I feel like
it's just a bit too much.
Because you were saying earlier how like it started up really quick and then went to a screeching halt. I agree, and I think I wouldn't have made it through this film as much if he was just either toned back or pulled away completely. Like I'm like without him, I think the whole like from like the 30-minute mark to like the hour, honestly that whole 30-minute middle part, I kind of was just kind of bored. That was my one disappointment or one critique of this film is that it got really slow to the point where I was getting bored. And even like, yeah, they showed a couple of like training fights, which were cool, but it wasn't like, to me, like, holy shit.
They felt like they had no purpose.
Yeah, like they're just like, here's to fill time. And I'm like, at least he's being annoying and stupid funny to kind of like make me at least laugh to keep this going, because other than that, like, none of the characters were saying anything that I'm just like, haha, yeah. Like, occasionally they say a line from the game, or like they'll mention something from the games, and I'm like, oh, I got that reference, which is cool. But like, you also can just make them talk more. You know, they had that one scene with Cole and Sonya talking about their family, and it's like immediately interrupted. They're like, oh, you suck. You need to go. I'm Raiden. You know.
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
And say that I didn't realize he was the dad of the family. I thought he was the older brother, and that was his mom.
I felt that too. Yeah,
the whole time. The whole time, and all of a sudden she says "dad" one time. I'm like, wait, what? Or like he says his wife's name instead of saying mom. And I'm like, maybe this is a stepmom situation. This guy looks young. And the daughter looks old. Like, it looks like whatever. And then the end, I'm like, oh, yeah, yep, it definitely is weird.
Yeah, that's another weird, like, I guess, not plot hole, but just, like, they could have established that just a little bit better. Like to set, maybe throw in a line in there, be like, oh, is this your kid or something? Like, when Jax comes to see him, and be like, oh, yeah, this is my daughter.
Because they did do a lot, they did do a good job of, in my opinion, I prefer it this way, as opposed to what the old Mortal Kombat movies did of just saying the person's name when you see them for the first time, so that you know that that's that person. You know what I mean? They could have been woven in more elegantly of like, this person's name is Melina. You know what I mean? They could have been more elegantly done, but at the same time, the last movie just didn't do that at all. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know who this person is?
It is cheesy, and there's moments where there's a lot of cheese in this movie, and I'm okay with it. And I think they do it in a way where it's not like, hey, take this kind of seriously, but also don't. Like, you know why you're here. You want to see them. You want to see these cool people fight. You want to hear them say the line because they say the lines in the game. So you want there is that like disbelief. Like, obviously, I'm not going to go up to someone in real life when I'm about to fight them. When I'm not, I wouldn't be fighting anybody. But if I did, I'm not going to be like, I'm Devin. No one says that. So it's cheesy.
But at the same time,
it's no different than Falcon and Winter Soldier, where what's his name is just like, Captain America. I'm like, bro, it's so hard to take you seriously when you like in the middle of a fight. You're like, Captain America. I'm Big Baby Pants. Like that's the energy I get. Like, I'm just like, you take yourself too seriously.
You didn't watch the last episode, and I won't spoil it for the audience, but a similar name type of thing happens where it's like, you guys really think that was cool? Like, the people in that scene, you guys all are like, cool, you're down for that name that was just dropped, and are like, you know what I mean? Actually, you don't know what I mean because you didn't see it, but you'll know what I mean when you watch it.
But yeah, no, I'm saying you can do it in certain scenarios, and I feel like, or in certain
I just
movies,
would rather it be this than just not saying the names at all.
No, I agree.
And I'm like, cool.
That's what I'm saying is like,
because it goes to me with how quickly they skip through or jump through the beginning. Cool, you're using it to just move on quick, and I'm glad it has a utilitarian purpose.
No, yeah, I'm saying I think they do it well because considering this movie has cheesy elements to it, that it's fine. Something like Winter Soldier or that show at moments takes itself very seriously, and it's kind of hard to when once in a while you're going to be like, and I'm the Captain America. I'm like, okay, buddy. Cool. You're also now a terrorist or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. Like, I thought it was cheesy when he's like, my name's not Bihan anymore. I'm Sub-Zero. And I'm like, bro, that's so cheesy, but whatever. I like, you're an ice ninja. Like, this shit is already goofy. Like, that's fine.
They just need to make sure they say it once. That's all that matters to me. Make sure your audience knows who these people are.
Before we go into the recap, one last thing I wanted to say. There was a couple surprising characters I didn't know were in it, and I didn't even know who they were. There was two characters, I think, from Mortal Kombat 9. There was Natara, and then there was Ryko there. And Natara, I think I've seen before, because I looked her up. I'm like, okay, she looks kind of familiar.
Is it the flying thing?
Yeah, she was a flying, like, vampire-looking thing. And then Ryko is like this...
The guy with the hammer?
Guy with the hammer, and I've never seen him before.
He barely got screen time.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting they picked like such obscure...
Oh, I think he might have been from one of the 3D fighters, because I vaguely remembered that guy.
Yeah, I think so. I just thought it was interesting they picked, like, obviously they had some of the favorites in there, and then they picked, Ryko. Maybe they're trying to try not to throw too many of the popular ones in case they make a sequel.
Well,
but once again, we go back to, we've talked about this before, how ballsy it is to, in a video game movie, how ballsy it is, I feel like, still to be like, yes, there will be a sequel. Or like, we've seen that happen before, and then like the movie does shit, and you're like, well, that feels wasted. Look at Spider-Man, or Amazing Spider-Man 2, where like, the Sinister Six are coming. No, they're not.
Although technically they can be like, actually, yeah, this was the plan all along because we're doing multiverse stuff.
Yeah, I
apparently
guess,
now.
but like, you know what I mean?
We
Like,
can continue that.
like, it is a little ballsy to me sometimes. Be like, yes.
My issue though is, don't have all of the main good guys in the movie, but you had the same ones from the last one. You had the exact same ones plus Mr. Newman.
The only new one was Cole, and then
sorry, I get it. Like, this is a better
Kung
Jax.
Lao was the only new guy.
So,
Kung Lao was the only new, but like original guy that wasn't in.
Yeah, and they kill him off. So it's like, we're still back to just the same dipshits. It's like I had a flashback from that last movie, and like,
I actually like that they killed him off because it at least showed me that like, they're not afraid to
kill Jax, kill Sonya Blade. Save him.
No, I
think he's new.
I think I think it'd been cool if they killed Liu Kang. Like halfway through, be like, "Oh, you thought Liu Kang was gonna be because, like you said, he was kind of taking a step back in this film as like the main character, the main hero." It'd been cool, but like, he's not the main hero, and we're gonna kill him off in this film. I think that would have been interesting and ballsy to do.
I mean, it would have made sense because although both Liu Kang and Kung Lao have the same role in the story. Like, they don't need a hero's journey story like Liu Kang was supposed to have had, apparently, in the last movie and perhaps the movie prior. Their shit is done. They're in a more mentory teaching type of role. They technically have done that already, is essentially what we've been told. So it would have made sense. Like, obviously, you kill the master off so that the student can learn. That would have been the thing. To me, it's like, man, we're just back to the same three dipshits from the last movie. It would have been cool if, like, we get more besides the new guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At least
that's just me personally.
At least I'll say that at least the casting in this film was, I think, pretty good. Like, there was no one I hated or I thought did a bad job. Like, everyone did their part. I just think some of the lines they were giving the characters just weren't that amazing, and like I said, there's some
the wife and the kid weren't great though.
Oh, sorry, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about our main
wife
fighters.
And the kid sucked.
Yeah, I didn't really care for them. Like I said, there's moments where it was boring or low energy, but I don't think it was because of how they delivered it. It was just like those are the lines they were given. The best scene, though, with all of them though, was I think the dining room scene there where they're shit talking each other and Kano is being racist, for sure. He dropped a line that was like making fun of the dude being Asian.
Called Kung Lao Kung Pao.
Yeah.
I'm like, oof.
Yeah. But yeah, like I thought that line or that scene was good, but like other than that, like I think it was more of just the lines that were given to the characters weren't that sexy or anything like amazing besides the occasional one-liner. But I thought the casting themselves was all good. Like their appearances looked good, all their armor and shit looked great. Didn't look cheesy.
Sub-Zero should have been blue, but he was like black. He had like no blue on him.
He had blue on him.
He needed more blue. He needed more. Scorpion had a lot of yellow on him.
But to be fair, towards the end there, he takes his armor off. He looks a lot like Noob Saibot, which obviously in the games, when the original Sub-Zero dies, he goes to the Nether Realm, becomes Noob Saibot. So I think that's an homage to that. Or in the sequel, he'll become Noob Saibot.
No, they even say at the end, Shang Tsung, is that his name?
Yeah.
Shang Tsung basically says no one ever dies.
Which is, I love that. Like, it's cool. I'm like, yeah, bring Kano back because I think they did Kano dirty. Or not Kano, Goro.
Yes and no. Here's my argument. I think it is cool that, and maybe this is not necessarily the intention of the film. Who knows? But I think it is cool when you have something like this, a film adaptation, or like Combat happens in comic books a lot with the Marvel stuff, and you kill off an important person in one of those movies early or whatever, as if they're not a big deal, and be like, yeah, no, this is not. We're not doing the exact same thing. as what the games or comic books or previous media did. This is different to an extent, and yeah, we do have the guts to kill off one of the names that you would remember from playing the game in the 90s of Goro, the guy with the forearms. We killed him off. We cut his hand off.
To be fair,
first,
he does die in the
games
in really dumb ways, I guess. I didn't really play the early 90s games, but from what I've read is that he does die in goofy ways. So it isn't too, I guess, surprising that he dies. I just kind of wished like he got to kill someone on screen.
And I think though that the reason why you would do what I would say, would killing off an important character like that early, or at least as if he wasn't very consequential, is so that you can give more time to the characters that aren't that way and bump them up to be bigger than they usually are. But this movie didn't do that. It still stuck with the regular names, besides Mr. New Pants, you know what I mean, with his new shirt, and, you know, and his haircut. But we don't need to recap the movie. We can just kind of go through and say the stuff that we liked.
I'll just say our recap can just be like opening, early, middle, late middle, ending. Like it could easily. We don't have to go through every scene and like where that character went. Just like we'll just go in generally a chronological order. I think that's best. I think we do better when we do that too. So I think that's the best way to do it.
As I was saying, yeah, like the opening I thought was great in a sense. It set a tone. Especially early on with, I like right before I watched this, I watched the finale to Falcon and Winter Soldier, a technically made for TV, MPA 13, I think, rated TV show.
Uh-huh.
And then going to this and like, yeah, like the first fight needed to set in my mind that yes, there is blood that is just going to happen very quickly in that sense. Like I think it set that tone pretty well. Which overall, I don't think the movie was nearly as bloody as I was expecting, but I don't also think that's a bad thing. I don't think it needed to be obnoxious about it. Like you could argue that the games are.
Because then you get into a Saw scenario where I know we've watched the Saw movies together a long time ago. We kind of like binged them because we're insane. And I remember like the first couple movies were really good, made you squirm, be like, oh shit, that's gross, like, or oh, I feel that, like.
And it goes on, and like I just don't want to watch these anymore. This is just.
Well, I'm saying like you do so much or do it too quickly, you become immune to it. You're like, yep, okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm just like, if you do too much blood or too much arms and limbs flying off, that it just kind of gets, whatever. And like that's with fatalities in the video game, sometimes you get sick of watching them because you're like, I've seen this one 12 times. Yes, I'm bad at this game. The dude who's Scorpion's going to do the same fatality of me every single time. Whatever, man. Just punch me and knock me down and this, you know what I mean? So I feel like I like how there is gore. They're not afraid to show it, but they didn't go over the top, like you said. They didn't try to...
They held back by not showing Sub-Zero ice the mother and daughter of past Scorpion Man. I think that was the big thing of me of like, they could have been really cruel and obnoxious and showing him killing the wife and son. They could have shown that, you know what I mean? But they don't. I think it makes the movie better, like cinematography wise, just seeing, Scorpion, I forget what his name was, of the past, discover it after it happened. You know what I mean? I think that makes a better story. But I was glad when I saw that. I'm like, okay, yep, they aren't going to go too far in a way that's like stupid, you know what I mean? In my opinion.
And I like how in that scene too, you had them like frozen, and you just saw like them impaled. Like it wasn't overly gory, but it's still kind of not shocking, but just like shit. Like they're dead. And that fucking sucks. Like I can't imagine seeing something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, I think just overall though, when they did do a fatality or like really showed the guts, it was one or two scenes. And I feel like it makes it more worthwhile that you're like, hell yeah, that's what I'm here to see.
They also didn't linger too long on it to be like, look what we just showed you.
Yeah,
check this out.
Yeah. Because even during that fight, the opening fight there where he kills a couple of them, like he fucks some of those guys up. You know what I mean? Breaks some necks.
Quickly.
Yeah, quickly. And they show it and you're like, by the time you're like, oh shit, and he's going to the next guy and breaking that guy's arm. And I'm like, it's so cool. And I do like that
for a second it turned into Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, which makes me excited that like they're making a movie. I'm like, hey, if it could be like this, that'd be dope. Because if anything, I will say this: watching this opening scene, I'm like, shit. Like Mortal Kombat's cool. I want a Mortal Kombat movie, but can we just do a movie of like the Lin Kuei versus the Shirai Ryu? Like, can we just do like a
You just want to watch a samurai film?
I just want to watch a samurai film, but like they have fire and ice like that. Sure, you know what I mean. That's after watching the opening scene, I'm just like, dude, I would pay to see just like a 2-hour movie of this.
Did you see the trailer? I didn't see it fully. I just saw, like, I guess, clips on Twitter, segments of it, of the Dynasty Warriors movie that China's making.
No,
it's Chinese, so it's not literal samurai, but it is like that plus like the supernatural elements. It actually looks really dope.
Hell
like,
yeah!
Graphics wise, this movie, I'm like, good for you, China, making like actually going all in on that.
Yeah,
Dynasty
and I will
Wars,
say
this Japanese game about your culture that you're making a movie on. Good for you.
Yeah. And speaking of Chinese and Japanese, I do appreciate that they had actors who actually
speak
that language. And
now, to be fair,
go ahead.
We don't. They could have fooled us.
They could have
gibberish.
It sounded like Japanese. I've watched enough Godzilla movies that I generally know what Japanese sounds like, I think.
And they made a point to show that Scorpion does not speak Chinese because he says, I don't know what words you're speaking, but I'm going to kill you.
And I love that, I love the subtitles. I know this is a very weird like compliment and goofy, but like I do like the subtitles they use. It wasn't like I've seen other movies do it, and sometimes it's like out of the way to read or just feels boring. It doesn't feel, it felt in the movie, and it made it just look so clean, in my opinion, and it added to the tone. I felt like that, just that subtleness of the text popping up.
So then, would you say that you're team subs over team dubs?
What?
Fucking anime nerds fight over whether or not they want to watch it in Japanese with subtitles or English dubbed over.
Subtitles.
Because I used to be subtitles. I used to be subtitles, but I'm tired of just reading the bottom third of a TV show the whole time.
That's what it is.
But you don't get to see the action. I don't have 3 eyes. If the quality is good, then I would watch like the English dub. But a lot of them are like really bad, or it's like, hey, these actors, they're really new. Anime is cheap. Is cheap to hire people for. Like this, like they're new. They're ones that I've seen that are just so bad. I'm like, I guess I got to go to the
I think it depends on what thing you're watching, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I will say though, like when they're speaking to each other, it just made it so much more badass to me. And like, I really like fell into that world. And I hope that in the future films, if there are any, that they keep up with that. And I hope they continue on that. If anything, like I said, I would totally watch Try Ryu versus the Lin Kuei film. And even if all of them spoke Japanese and Chinese, I think that'd be so cool. I really liked it. I just really love the opening scene.
Like that also the movie framed this feud as a one-sided slaughter when, although I don't really know, I have a feeling it goes both ways very easily.
Who knows? Yeah. I know in the games they generally make it seem like the Sub-Zero clan, the Lin Kuei, are kind of these like
antagonistic.
They take over.
But in war, you could argue when you retaliate and you kill someone from your oppressors, or whatever, you end up perpetuating it more, and someone gets revenge. We played a video game last year called The Last of Us Part 2 that was all about that.
Yes.
It's the greatest game of all time. I hope they remake the first game.
I can't wait. Yeah,
it's not even a decade old.
Yeah, remember 2013?
Although it will be by the time it comes out. Let's move on. Let's talk about Cole's last name.
Young.
I don't remember.
Cole Young.
Thank Mr. Cole Young.
Yes,
please
Cole
get
Young.
on the stage. An MMA fighter to be. I imagine that was MMA.
It was like amateur MMA. Yeah, like they're doing it for money. It's a local thing.
He gets paid $200 a fight. He is literally the guy that they pay so that the actual fighters have someone to fight. He is there. He works at the establishment.
He's their body bag, basically.
Literally, that his job is to
punching
just
bag,
be entertaining.
Body bag, punching bag.
He's there. He's there to get paid, and he's getting paid very little.
By the way, $200 I feel like is a little low. Like, I would not get my face smashed in for $200.
Yeah.
Even if I was professionally trained, I wouldn't be like, for $200? No. I mean, unless that's his only job, I guess. You got to do what you got to do. But, like, it takes forever to heal. Like, it's usually you do one fight a week. What? That's maybe $600 for $800 a month.
For him. But the big, the UFC fights, your fighters have, 2 fights a year, maybe, at most.
And they get paid millions to get brain trauma or brain damage.
Exactly. And then they spend forever. I like the ethical quandary of whether or not you should let them speak on microphone after they beat each other up, because you're so out of it. It's very easy for one of them to just say the N-word because they're not even in their own mind right now. You know what I mean? Because that's happened a few times where someone says something way too...
That's the gamer argument. You know, when Ninja
yeah,
said...
but you're not getting
Ninja.
When
PewDiePie said the N-word on the bridge, is because he was in the gamer moment. All right? You don't know the trauma he was going through. All right?
Exactly.
PUBG.
Exactly. He has got money though, so fuck him. Yeah, so he does all that stuff, and and you say that you don't really care for him all that much. I liked him. I thought he was fine.
I'm saying he's
I
fine.
just think his story
like,
overall wasn't one of like all of a sudden he's the plan guy for that one scene when they're in whiter space. And then he's all of a sudden just like he knows his shit, but he still needs help anyway. So he's not 100% like the cool, awesome leader. He's not Wolverine or Cyclops, but he all of a sudden became more than just the pedestrian that stood next to them all and watched them fight. You know what I mean? He bumped up. So I don't think his story was super interesting as a whole. I think that unfortunately most of the plot for why they can have tension between them and the Outworld guys is because of him and the fact that he has a family that can be kidnapped. You know what I mean? Like when they're all in that temple and they're surrounded by the lightning. Yeah, I understand the lightning went away for a different reason, but the whole time I'm thinking like, dude, motherfucker can just go to his house and just show like, hey, I just killed your wife. Do you want me to kill your daughter too? Step out of the lightning. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I also think, like I said, like
I think his purpose was to perpetuate the story.
It's hard to have a character like this when everyone else has cool powers and shit outside of Sonya Blade, who at least Sonya Blade gets powers at the end or whatever. Or
you see it once, like the purple.
But at least she's like militarily trained and like does some cool moves or has guns. So like whatever. But like out of everybody, he's to me the most
she's
boring.
In like the most random movies, and none of them seem to be like fighting.
I mean, I think she did good.
Movies,
yeah, like...
so yeah, I think Cole was all right though, and as we see through the story, like yeah, Sub-Zero he tries to go after him because he was born with this birthmark, and I like that his powers ultimately, while they are different than Scorpion's, are still like subvertant of them. It is still fire-ish based. You know what I mean? He just gets hit a bunch and he absorbs like energy grows on him or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's just like he knows how to use his super strong Tonfa and Blade thing combo.
Super random, but in the trailer, speaking on the birthmark thing, in the trailer they're like, I remember in the trailer that the way it was cut, that scene where they're asking about the birthmark, they're like, oh, it's a birthmark. And they're like, what does that mean? He's like, oh, he was born with it. That was that's what was in the trailer,
Really?
and they had it switched. And I'm like, thank God, because I would have.
That's lame.
I would have cringed so hard if they're like, it's a birthmark. What does that mean? Oh, he was born with it. Oh, like what?
Well, why don't we talk about all the characters one on one? I'll start with Jax. I think Jax is obviously a whole lot better than in the last movie. I think that's
I'll say
obvious.
this too. In the games, I'm a Jax fan. He's probably like my second or third guy I go with outside of Sub-Zero and Jesus Christ, my other characters I go with. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Jax is cool. I love Jax. Scarlet, Jesus, there you go.
I do think it was kind of lame that they gave him weak ass skeleton arms. It's one of
Terminator
these things where
arms.
it's like,
let's call them what they are. Terminator arms.
I mean, that's what. But they weren't like even robotic. Really, it was kind of just like metal work, like ancient, metal.
It's if like you lost your
find.
arms in Dungeons and Dragons level of medieval times,
Sure.
but they were somehow advanced enough to make arms that would like work like that.
But what I'm trying to say is that the situation to me was very much, when like you watch a movie, read a story, play a game, and it's like old sensei teaching young, arrogant, both arrogant and ignorant, wannabe loser type of person to whatever, right? And in order to get the message across, they need to learn through some sort of suffering or pain. Or just you can't be told. You just have to experience it, and then it clicks in your mind. Even though this was not said at all about the Jax character for this, he was clearly a guy that showed up with no arms, and they tried to help him. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily that thing. But to me, though, I couldn't help but think about it. Wow, we need to show him that he is stronger than his arms. and then we'll give him strong arms. You know what I mean? Was his power just his arms become good? No, for me it was just like, oh yeah, the arms were just so advanced that as soon as he tried to push past the arm, the strength that they had, then all of a sudden they're like, all right, I guess we'll just give you the strong arms now. You know what I mean?
It was weird.
Why did they do that?
It was weird, but I was like, whatever. Like, I let it slide. I was like, okay, like, because I originally thought he was like, when they showed him having those small arms, I'm like, how are they gonna connect this? I'm like, does he have to go to like some space world? Like, is Raiden gonna like power up his arms or something? Like, I was waiting for that to happen, and like, no, it was just the whole Arcana thing, which
at least it was better than just tubes he puts his arms in like the last movie.
Yeah, that's true. Literally just tubes. Yeah, I'm glad that they like at least at the end though he did look like what he does in the games, and he does feel powerful and like actually uses them. Unlike in the on Annihilation, he's like, I don't need these. I'm like, no, bitch, you do. Like, it's a goddamn fucking horseman. Like, you have to use something.
Exactly. It's okay to use them.
No one's judging you here.
Man makes tools. You know what I mean? Otherwise, we'd be fucked if we didn't use our tools because we thought it wasn't fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I go punch.
This horseman wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Fuck what he thinks. Use your arms. I don't get it.
You know what, Ethan? When I go hunting, I use my bare hands. You know, I go hunt gator with my bare hands. I go fight bears with my bare hands. I just take the alligator's jaws and I snap it open. Snap them open.
You know, I'm just capable of that.
I'm a true animal.
His story sucked in this movie in the sense that like he just, it looked like they wanted to show him trying to be like, I'm worthless without my arms. No, I'm not. And then obviously they take away, like, yes, you are. Here are stronger arms now, buddy. But he, like, there's too many characters. And again, movie clips along really quickly in a way I like. I understand. I don't want this movie to be the setup movie for a sequel. Make this also a movie. There's a way to do that, and it's called having less characters if you want to have them have more growth, obviously. But at the same time, you don't want that for this type of film. So I was cool with the opening. But when I went to a crawl, I'm like, halfway through that, I'm like, are they gonna like use this to really develop some of these like characters, like their dilemmas? You know what I mean? What they're thinking, and it's like yes and no, because there's still not enough time, even though they are spending way too much time fighting. But you like Jax. I like Jax. And in the games, I believe what happens is he loses his arms in combat, like while he's serving in a war. I don't remember at the time what game he came out in, so I don't know if it would have been like Desert Storm or something. But whatever, he lost his arms, and you know, like the army gave him those arms, and he's always been this like military dude, you know, or like he kind of in a way to me always kind of represented like the American military, but like not in a way that was almost like kind of Captain America has that like like patriotic energy. He has that kind of energy to him, at least in the games. But it's not the same level as Captain America, where he's, you know, wearing blatant American stuff. There is a couple skins I've seen him have where he has the American flag on his like arms, which I think is dope looking, or like stars and stripes in general. But he's always to me been this like just American military like Marine kind of dude. Like he's a tough motherfucker. You know, he'll find a way to beat the shit out of you, or he'll always battle back. That's what I've always liked about him. And in the game, he's just so fun to play as, because like there's a couple combos you can do that just feel good, and like I've always loved that. Gotcha. But gotcha. Overall, though, I thought he was fine. Yeah, I mean, at least he looked cool at the end, like I said, and he was jacked, so that's cool. It would have been a cool twist if, like, no, those are his arms. That's it. Just give him a use now. You have figure out how to use that. Exactly. I would have been them totally okay with if he just always had metal arms, like from the very beginning. I get it. It was kind of cool for him Sub-Zero to like to show how good Sub-Zero is and like really play with him basically during that fight. That these characters can die. Yeah, and like he basically just fucks him up and leaves him for dead. Like I thought that was cool, but at the same time, I would have been totally okay with if like when Cole first meets him, he's like, "Oh, Jesus, you have metal arms." He's like, "Yeah," and now my life's signed away. Like maybe you could tie in that like maybe he hates being in the military, but like without the military, he doesn't have these arms, he doesn't have these powers. That would have been cool. It's U.S. government property. Yeah, kind of energy. I think that'd have been a cool twist or something they could add to that. And so Sonya Blade. Yeah. The trailer park bitch.
So like, yeah, so she's
is she supposed to be like a hick in the woods?
I just think that's one thing I think they could have done better. Is I feel like they were trying to make her seem like she was kind of a conspiracy theorist, ex-military person. Like that's why she's living out there. She doesn't have much money left, and like she's like, but I want to save the world. Or like I've been tracking, because she's been the one who's tracking all the marks, and that's how she got Jax in on it. That's at least my interpretation of it. I think they could have elaborated more, maybe done something, showed more of that. But yeah, it was kind of a weird setup for her.
I thought it was fine.
Maybe they could have had her out there too to be like, I'm trying to avoid the government, because if the government finds out about this, these superheroes basically, like, you know what I mean.
The reasons, what the context of her being there, the only thing that was said was that her and Jax are researching the Mortal Kombat thing, and they have the stuff on the walls, like the classic corkboard with the string type of stuff. But other than that, like later a joke, because my first thought after like they walk into that secret room is like, oh, this ain't a house, this is a cover, this is a secret base. But then when there is that joke about, no, she doesn't have $2 million, $3 million, she just say that she lives here. So it's like, well, I'm a bit confused, but whatever. At least the movie is able to move on quickly.
I think out of all the movies we watched, this is my favorite Sonya Blade by far.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously, she also knew how to fight. I'm sure that was a very obvious thing for casting. I wouldn't even be surprised if they're very cognizant about protective or even defensive over how to portray certain characters that were in the previous movies. You know, with the exception of maybe Liu Kang, because you know that guy actually was trained martially in the past. I thought she was fine. She didn't seem like she had much of a story going on. It felt like it was going to be like I was confused because you told me previously that they all have powers or something about them to degree, except I guess Sonya Blade. Maybe she's just like military. Because even Johnny Cage gets magic. Yeah, you had said that. So in my head, I'm like, okay, she doesn't have the Drakic mark. She's probably not going to get one. And it's going to be like, the point is that she realized she doesn't need one to still be a valuable member of the team. And then they gave her purple shooty arms.
I was going to say, like, there is...
Because that was my thinking, is that her story was going to be am I worthless? No, I'm not.
I don't remember her, and at least
because I have purple arms now.
In Mortal Kombat 11, I don't think she has any powers from my knowledge. I don't really play as her as often. I know her daughter does, but it's based off Johnny Cage's powers. And then there's Jax's daughter, Jackie Cage, who also has... If anything, her powers are close to what Jackie Briggs's...
Her last name is Cage?
Sorry, Briggs. Jackie Briggs.
Okay. I'm like, are you sure that's your daughter, Jackson?
No, Jackie Briggs has those, like, weird, like, burst pulse gun arms. I don't know how you describe it. Energy. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe she did in the earlier games. I just don't remember. I don't know. Maybe someone could fact check me on that. But, yeah.
Or maybe they just decided they needed to give her something. Very weirdly similar to Shang-Chi in the Ten Rings trailer with the rings on his arms that do purple stuff, or blue, I guess it's blue stuff in that trailer. But yeah, like I was a bit disappointed in that because it's like, this is going to be the obvious story. I can see it. Like she's just going to accept that no, she's not going to get the dragon thing. And then she does. At least she killed Kano to get it. You know what I mean?
So it's at least saying that like she didn't need to be, because he had it, right? And he had he had his Arcana power in check, you know. So like,
and some Arcana is easier to. I imagine that's not what it's called in the game. I think they just have the powers, right?
No, there's no.
They don't need. There isn't like this universal science to how it all connects and works.
No,
it's just this man.
Liu Kang knows how to turn to dragon. That's just it is what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure they spell Arcana with a fucking K.
Arcana.
The laser, I think, is obviously a lot easier to deal with than like a man that can just erupt things in fire or ice. So you know what I mean? Like it's not like Kano's was all that cool, but he also has like a robot eye, right?
In the games,
yeah. Just
I think he loses his eye and then he gets a laser eye from the Black Dragon clan or whatever it's called.
Nice. Kano, I know we disagreed. I think he was too much. I think the character and the purpose and his role in the film was fine, and I liked that to a degree. But there were just a bit too many one-liners, one bit too many responses. You know what I mean? In that, and I felt like he was just too much. But overall, I felt he was fine. I was confused because I thought he was a bad guy in the games, and I'm like, I guess he's just on the team. Oh yeah, of course he's. Why wouldn't they just assume that he would be like a backstabbing piece of shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy has not been nice to them at all. He's there to get money. He also stole something apparently, but there's him. Liu Kang, I was disappointed in, only in the sense that like his story seemed to be complete. In a sense that it already happened for him, how he got to be cool as fuck. There was a bit of a backstory teaching for him, and then once Kung Lao dies, I'm like, okay, this is going to further his story because he was very able and willing to give praise to his cousin, so to speak, born into this power when he was a street rat. You know what I mean, like an Aladdin figure, so to speak. He's very willing because their friendship and like he gives him purpose, and he's nothing without this guy, and now he is gonna have to prove like no, he's just still cool, which is fine.
I love the
think
scene where
obviously the sequel is gonna
when he took his shirt off though, like damn, like he's that lean jacked, like Bruce Lee was,
skinny ripped, like Cloud Strife in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yes.
And Zack Snyder fans are harassing that man on Facebook because it happened with Godzilla vs. Kong. We need to send a message to Warner Brothers that we want to see more Snyderverse stuff. So don't watch Godzilla vs. Kong. Instead, watch Justice League again or whatever. Watch it there.
I heard about that
Refuse
briefly,
to watch this movie.
I just kept scrolling. I just
because you got to remember, like it's great. Like again, I have my personal qualms with Zack Snyder and his political views and how that ruins Superman as a character. I think he seems to be a great person that has like actually good motives and intentions. He makes bad but fascinating films that I like, regardless. He seems like a good person, even though I disagree with him politically, and his political views seem like they're goes against how he is as a person. Maybe he doesn't understand that they're harmful to say that poor people are a stain on society. Maybe he realizes that that's bad. But in any case, his fans of these movies suck and are terrible. The release the Snyder Cut was a hate-mongering crusade people had. They harassed people, and eventually they got what they wanted. So now their new thing that they were saying to the new Liu Kang on Facebook was continue the Snyderverse, and they were just harassing him. Like, this man has anything to do with it. He's in a movie. You know what I mean?
This is his job. He doesn't decide what movies are made.
Right.
He doesn't have the billions of dollars that decide, yes, we are making Mortal Kombat 8.
These people want to hold this movie and the Godzilla movie hostage so that they can get another sad Superman movie. Like, I'm sorry, Henry Cavill doesn't want to be in these movies either. He basically said as much. He wouldn't let them he had to keep his mustache on in the Justice League. They CG'd out his mustache because he was going to be in Mission Impossible, a better film. That's the stuff I like. Let's talk about the stuff you like. So Mortal Kombat, another character in it was Sub-Zero.
That's my boy.
What was his real name? Bihan?
Bihan.
He didn't really have, and he's a bad guy that you don't see the whole time, so obviously he's not going to have too much of we'll see his motivations and blah, 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 but like, usually, though, still, like, for a main bad guy, you still see some reason why he's doing it. For really all of the bad guys, it's just, we just want this thing. And that's fine.
He's just evil.
He has a connection. You know what I mean? He's got a connection with our hero that is never explored in any sense. There is no monologue about what he wants. Is actually very similar to what the hero wants, but they're how they achieve that is different. Their goals are slightly different, but the same. None of that, which is fine. But it was a bit surprising that, like, hey, you have Blue Ninja Man versus Yellow Ninja Man. It's very easy to be like dueling ideologies, and there is none. It's just, I want to kill you. I want.
That's what I'm saying.
I
would love a standalone movie, or even like a short 30-minute movie where it just goes more into like what happened there. I know in the newer Mortal Kombats, they're like chill now. Like both clans are like, yo, fam, like we're stronger together we're stronger when we work together, and we won't get, attacked by Shao Kahn anymore. And I like that as a concept. They're like, oh, Sub-Zero, let's make our two dudes who fight all the time actually just be buddies and be like cool bros. I like that. But anyways, Sub-Zero's my boy. That's like when I first got into Mortal Kombat, that was always my go-to. I always loved his abilities and what he can do. I do like Scorpion a lot too. I like all the ninjas; they're cool. But Sub-Zero's always been my favorite. And I feel like they got him down, honestly, of like at least the original Sub-Zero. Of like he's just pure evil. He likes killing things. I like that he's an assassin. He's going around, and his main goal is just to kill people before the tournament even starts, which is so dirty when you really think about it. That's like going before the Super Bowl. You go and like break someone's legs, like you go break Tom Brady's
or
leg,
deflate the footballs.
Not even that. I'm just saying like we cut the tires on the bus. They couldn't even make the game. All right.
Yeah.
They forfeited. They couldn't even field a team. Anyways, but yeah, I really liked Sub-Zero, and I love all the choreography with him. I think they did a fantastic job. The ice effects look great, and I like how he attacked a ice cream parlor, basically, and he just killed people without any mercy. Just is classic evil boy shit.
Was it weird to you that the daughter got food and Cole didn't until the wife showed up, and then they went to go order food,
making sure she good,
so they could leave the girl outside? Yeah, I thought he was, like I said, and I agree with you to an extent. Old Scorpion, thought he was dope. Didn't have too much story. Obviously, his was really just in the beginning. Kind of wish there was a bit more of a connection he had with Cole at the end after the fight, but I get it. They don't really know each other. They're not really
he's
connected.
400 years
it's
old.
Centuries. That, to be quite honest, that's not even family at that point. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, if I met 400, future year in the future offspring of my descendants that's so diluted, so to speak, of my own blood with other DNA, I wouldn't be like, man, you're family. I'd be like,
wow, you look so much
just
like
a
me.
guy.
No, someone 400 years from now, your kids could be completely the opposite looking of you. Like,
right. The fact that you have a bloodline that even goes that far to begin with,
is
impressive.
What I mean, yeah.
is impressive. One that's considered to be so direct that he gets a dragon. Did everyone coming before him have a dragon birthmark?
They said that, remember his mother or his grandma, I think it was. I don't know. There's so many generations, but basically all his ancestors lived on the Raiden temple. And then for some reason, he was the only one that was outside of that. At least that's another thing that they could have explored more.
That's right.
I was kind of confused. I'm like, but how did he get to Chicago?
Well, I mean, they're clearly doing a sequel. So, but and at least he's Asian.
That's what I'm saying.
That
I feel like the casting is great in this. Like they did
completely, even though he had a very white man that lives in Chicago accent. At least he was Asian, so it still wasn't just like a complete. Again, going back to, we introduced a new character for this movie so that the audience can relate to them. They didn't whitewash that idea.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, Scorpion's great. Like I said, the actor was great. The choreography with the whole fight at the end was, I think, it was.
Well, that was
so
the trailer, the first trailer that I remember at least.
Yeah,
was that.
It was so worth it though. Him and Sub-Zero, both actors just did a great job. And then like when they're talking to one another, that was so good.
Yeah. I was actually thinking before that start, because it's still in the back of my mind, because Scorpion hadn't shown up when they were in that scene. It was Cole versus Sub-Zero. I'm like, oh, he's gonna either like his suit's gonna form to finish the Scorpion look, or the trailer they made it seem as if it is Scorpion, but it said it is gonna be Cole doing the thing, and they just replaced for the trailer to make it seem something else.
Either his armor was going to change, or like the spirit of Scorpion Hanzo was going to come back through him, like when he needed it most, almost like a spirit animal or something, a protector, a persona, some could say.
Sure.
And and it like be basically that's like his ultimate power is like, oh, he just channels his great grandfather. Who's a badass ninja, and that's how he wins or something. But I'm glad he was actually just came back when his blood was entered into the whatever that little knife is called.
The kunai.
Kunai.
I think that's a kunai.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they have to be bigger, but that seems.
And I
like
love how
it.
the combat too felt realistic, but also like Mortal Kombat at the same time. I know we were talking about that earlier, but especially during this fight with the weapons they were using, it felt
they made it work. They made it
work,
you know,
yeah.
like they actually cared. They gave a shit. Next character, Raiden, very underutilized and boring. So like he's just not even there. I forget that he has a personality. Like he's just a tool for things to happen, a reason that they can't get attacked.
yeah,
And to
be
congratulate
teleported.
them when they win. Yeah, that's it. He has no purpose. Like, I'm not saying that I like the Raiden from the other movies better, because I know that guy also sucked and was very, very weird. Both Raidens, so to speak. But this guy was just like non-existent. Really, just non-existent. Same thing with Shang Tsung, just
I
non-existent.
think they're trying to save them for a sequel, which
Yeah.
like once again is ballsy
guess.
because for the
you run the
diehard
risk of no one giving a shit,
Yeah.
and then that doesn't happen.
the diehard Mortal Kombat fans, want to see Shang Tsung and Raiden fight, or Shang Tsung fight Liu Kang. You know what I mean? And we don't really get that directly,
But-
at least.
The excuse we've said plenty of times during 2020, if your movie bombs, blame it on COVID, you can make the sequel anyway. Even if this movie technically bombs to their numbers for new subscribers on HBO Max and the obvious box office, which I looked before we started, says 19 million is what it has, which seems pretty good for an opening for a movie.
I don't remember what
COVID.
Godzilla had. But
Right.
right now,
It might have been
Godzilla's the number
higher.
one. So like that's what I'm curious to see like how Mortal Kombat does, to see if it matches Godzilla or is even like a
Even
little
if
under
it fails their expectations, they can just blame it on COVID.
They got 200 mil.
Greenlit the sequel.
You get 200 mil from HBO Max. So
budget of this film was about 95 million. That's what
small.
I initially looked up.
For what the things they were
But
able to do.
3 times what the last movie was. Thank God for that. That's what I was curious about. I'm like, man, I wonder if... Because how hilarious would it be if it had the exact same budget? It's like, wow.
And it's so much
the people
better.
really didn't fucking try last time then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted that to be the case. But
It was more money
obviously,
back then too, like technically.
a lot of it went to the ice physics. Goro kind of felt like an orc from Warcraft in some senses.
Yeah. I want to.
Like,
I'm curious.
The
'cause
Hulk seemed better sometimes.
I'm curious. I'm gonna have to whenever this movie comes out in like DVD or something. I'm gonna have to get it because I want to watch behind the scenes stuff, because some of the like Reptile we didn't really talk about because he's kind of just a monster in this. There like the close-ups of Reptile looked like possibly animatronic mixed with CGI. Which I like. I like when movies do that, where they're like because it adds more to the realism to it, or at least it looks more real to me when you mix it together. Like there, at least maybe like a just for the head. Maybe there's a puppet that they use, like the guy who's wearing the suit, has it on top of him, kind of like Jar Jar was.
Okay.
But Jar Jar, at least they didn't leave anything. That was full.
Also not the
full
gold
CG
standard.
No, but I'm saying they used full CGI for that. They didn't like keep Jar Jar's
Yeah.
head in and his body's CGI. But I feel like there was moments where it looked like,
It was hard for me to tell because he was so translucent most of the time.
and it happened so
That
quick too.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see if they did or not. Because if they didn't, then I'll be like, oh, well done. Like when it was really close up, it looked good, and that's awesome.
Yep. I think it's really all the characters that matter. Like, yeah, there were a couple bad guys we didn't talk about. They were
Cabal,
really just...
Cabal is cool. Cabal's another one of my like favorites.
I will actually
design wise, he looks dope. And he did. He didn't make him look good, is what I'm saying.
I'll say this. I'm glad they didn't go in the direction of this is the clearly inferior Kano, and then we'll just see that he sucks. At least they didn't show that, no, this guy sucked. Like, yeah, he's dismembered to whatever extent he is under there because of Kano, whatever, right? But that wasn't because he's like a bad fighter or you know what I mean? Like he's just the inferior person. Like it was cool that they made him cool, and it was Liu Kang fights him. I feel like the training segments, which we talked about for a bit already, went on way too long. And what made thinking about it as we're talking about this, what nailed it down for me is that nothing was actually learned or shown to have gotten across to our heroes. It's just we need to show that they actually are training and preparing for this, so they aren't just gonna easily defeat their opponents in 5 minutes. Oh, wait, they do anyway in the movie. Whatever. We need to show that they're training. That's what it only felt like. They could have used that time to really show.
The only good training part
Something.
that I thought was good was that Liu Kang kept doing a leg sweep over
like
and over.
how you would
in a video game.
Play someone in a video game.
And I like how Kano was like, "You're gonna keep doing the same move." It's like that's classic Mortal Kombat or fighting games in general. And I thought that was funny, like in a weird meta way of being like, "Hey, this is like you versus your dad, like how you would do the same move as a kid against your dad, like I did, and he'd get mad at me."
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
me and my mom used to play Tekken Tag Tournament on our PS2 in year 2000, and she got getting upset at me because I would just spam the same move with whatever chick I was playing as because we didn't know how to block it in that game.
Yeah. That's always the best. I would always just do punch, and it would just be like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, where it's just left punch, right punch,
hand slap.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was cool. Like, I think they could have left some of the training in, and maybe they could have been like, "This isn't going to work. We need to do something else."
It needed to serve a purpose.
Yeah,
like there needs to be if that is technically a plot, there needs to be a B plot, an undermining thing that we learn or see happen as a result during the training to give it more purpose, other than to fill time. Obviously, we see that dinner scene. I thought that was great to the most part, although I couldn't necessarily tell if getting Kano to be super angry to unleash his Arcana was the point of Kung Lao's initial, like, hey, fuck you type of attitude, or if it was just a happy coincidence. We can to pretend that this was the plan, so to speak. But really, to me, that scene kind of showed what I was saying about Liu Kang a bit more, an admiration for Kung Lao that we didn't get to see too much of paying off of. Like, there was no fruit was bore out of that. For the next movie, maybe it'll be a Liu Kang focused story, and we'll be like Raiden says, "Oh, you haven't been yourself. You haven't been the fighter that you used to be. Blah 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 blah." And he's like, "I'm nothing without my cuz." Something like that. Maybe they'll do that, but you set something up in a movie and then you don't follow through with it at all, feels weird, even if you're planning a sequel. It doesn't count. You don't get to say that you're going to do it later and we just be like, all right, cool, it counts. You know what I mean? So, because it happens like a couple of points. I'm like, okay, clearly they're making a sequel. They literally end the movie by saying, we're actually not going to have a big climax for the fate of the universe. We'll do that next time. Goodbye. It felt disappointing to me. What did you think about this aspect?
Yeah, I mean, Liu Kang was cool. Generally, like I said, I think he looked like Liu Kang, acted like Liu Kang. I like that it looked like how he looks like in the video game, like in terms of like his combat and whatnot. And I like that his fatality on Cabal was one of the OG fatalities. The dragon eating him basically. I kind of wish, though, he just turned into, like, a straight skeleton. Even though that wouldn't have been realistic as much, I think it would have just been funny. That, like, all it left was, like, a perfect burnt skeleton. Just, like...
Or just, like, a really charred, still has some meat and skin on it, but it's basically a skeleton. They could have done something.
Yeah.
Still made it cool.
Still was cool. I still think that my favorite fatality in it was the Kung Lao.
With the table saw.
Yeah, which he's done in like multiple video games. It's just always cool. That's like the one fatality I always think is just stupid, ridiculous.
That was the only part in the movie where I looked away because I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, they did it. They did a good job there
in a good way. Because I think all of the fights were good. Like, we know we talk about a lot of our grievances, but the assumption is the things we don't talk about were either fine or good, and all of the fights were good. Like, every single one.
Kung
None
Lao
of them
literally
felt like...
did one of the moves from the game. Like, where he does, like, this kick, like, frisbee throw, basically, of his hat, and he just misses Shang Tsung, and I'm like, oh, I know that move. Like, I know what move that is.
I was actually curious to see if you were going to
There's a couple
pull
there,
out some direct...
There was a couple moves in that looked either pretty close, or if not, the exact moves from the games, at least more recent games I play. I haven't played every Mortal Kombat game, but I know some of Kung Lao's moves.
Fake fan.
By the way, I don't know if you saw, but on when Sub-Zero kills Jax, on the wall there's a fatality on there, like in graffiti.
Oh, it says fatality.
Well, no, there's someone did a down arrow, right arrow, and wrote
Oh, the
L2
button
or something.
inputs.
Yeah, button inputs or something.
Interesting.
I thought that was cool.
I saw someone tweet today after I saw the movie. This movie is not my Mortal Kombat experience because people are doing cool finishers, and when I play, you walk left to right, and then you do a light punch, and then they die.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of the ending though, like how it kind of just it felt rushed for sure. I was kind of like, oh, so we're not going to do like the actual tournament.
Right.
So
it did not feel like this was going to be the climax, but I guess
only,
it was.
Only that first movie we saw had kind of the tournament going on. But I would love a whole movie where it's just straight the tournament and like it's just the drama of like this person dies. You don't know who's going to die. And I would love if they just like, yeah, Liu Kang dies in his first fight or something.
Do an actual tournament arc like in fucking Dragon Ball or something.
Yeah.
Where the entire thing from stem to stern, start to finish, port to bow is a tournament.
And you really don't know
beginning.
who's going to win.
You set up this universe. You can do that in the second movie now. Actually, you could have done it in this movie too and just introduce characters as they go out to fight and die. You know what I mean? Like a James Gunn type of thing. Like I assume Suicide Squad is going to be like.
Yeah.
Or they're going to introduce characters to us as we basically see them die. Is my assumption anyway for that movie. Do a tournament arc for the next movie. Do the actual thing. They cheated. It doesn't count because the tournament was never canceled or anything. It's still going to happen, right?
Yeah.
There's still going to be a thing.
Guys,
Do
been
it.
postponed another 100 years. We got to see how this plays out. Y'all cheated. We're going to postpone it. Yeah.
Wait another generation
But at least,
to wipe out humanity.
But at least, and this was a critique people had of when they first announced the cast and like the first trailer drop. Mortal Kombat fans I saw were complaining like, "Where's Johnny Cage? Where's our boy Johnny Cage?" Another face of Mortal Kombat. When people think of Mortal Kombat, one of the characters they think of is Johnny Cage. Speaking of a cocky asshole, like Kano's more of like the raunchy guy, when Johnny Cage more of just like that cocky asshole guy. He's like, I've done it all. I'm the best. I'm beautiful. I'm hot. You know, like I can do anything. Like I'm maybe with Kano gone. Maybe they have no reasons he's not in it is because maybe they having him and Kano and it would have been too much. You already said Kano himself was too much. I feel like having a Johnny Cage would have been a little too much. So maybe that's why they're kind of saving him for the sequel and to kind of hype the sequel more. Like y'all motherfuckers love Johnny Cage. As soon as he said we're going to California, I'm like, they're going to get my boy. They're going to get my boy Johnny Cage.
He said Hollywood specifically.
Yeah. So like it was rushed.
Yeah,
The ending was rushed, but at least I'm excited that I'm like, hey, if there's a sequel, we're getting fucking Johnny Cage. Like hell yeah. And they better not fuck up that casting. They did. I trust them though. They did great with the casting.
It's gonna be freaking what's his name? It's gonna be
Chris Pratt.
Deadpool, Detective Pikachu,
Ryan Reynolds.
I
could see Ryan Reynolds or
I was saying Ryan Johnson in my head. I'm like, he's
Chris, or it's going to be Chris Pratt. I think could do a good job, but it might just be someone completely random. But I think they need to get someone who looks like classic Hollywood, who can
Ryan
be
Reynolds.
ripped.
It's gonna be Ryan Reynolds.
That's the thing is, will that be the main selling point though? You know, be the actor then at that point.
I have no real like. I don't want to say care because that's not being nice and not exactly what I mean. I have no skin in the Mortal Kombat game. None of this excites me to agree. I like things that are hype and can get excitable. I like seeing that happen for other people, right? So I was disappointed that the after credits, it wasn't after credits, but that teaser thing was just a guy that was obviously going to be in one of these sequels. Of course it's going to be him. Instead of like teasing like a guy that was only in Mortal Kombat 3 if you inputted this code and blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, it's blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's the, or like, the dude on the one bridge and on that one level that's fighting in the background that has never been playable.
Yeah, something like
and
that.
It's also in Mortal Kombat 11 in the whole like loot box area. There's this, you see them fighting in the distance, the same people from the first game, and you're like,
that's funny. Why
can't we play as them? You'll never play as them. Like that'd be funny if they're like, it's funny. That guy. You're like, what?
Or you throw Ed Boon there as a gag type of thing.
I thought it'd been cool if like if there was a post credit scene if it was like Noob Saibot, like was being like created or something. Like Shang Tsung's like, we're gonna need your help.
Here's what you do. And I understand you told me more about Noob Saibot than I ever knew about him. The only thing I ever knew about him is his name is Ed Boon backwards.
Boon, Tobias is the other guy who made it for Saibot.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, was as Boon, right? what you have for your post credits is you have Boone played by Ed Boon, then is immediately murdered, and it's just the Sub-Zero guy that is now Noob Saibot. You know what I mean? Something to make you think. You can have a gag and a fun reveal. It would have been funny if
Ed Boon was in it at some point. Like, just in any, like a Stan Lee thing. I think it would have been funny to have him, because he's...
Maybe he was in the background, we just didn't notice.
Because he's a goofy guy. Like, I feel like you could have easily had him, like, Sub-Zero, like, as Sub-Zero's going through a crowd of people that get to Cole Young, he, like, grabs Ed Boon and throws him through a window or some shit like that. Like, I think that would have been
And it hits a mannequin that you see coming out the window.
Yeah.
The glass shatters. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I had heard this. So I saw someone talking about it. In all of the games or anything, whenever Scorpion says, "Get over here," it is still Ed Boon saying it. And that didn't happen for this movie.
I don't know. I know in the original games, he did all the sound. Like, he did all the voices and sound effects.
Right. But even in, like, 11, I think it's supposed to be him.
In 11,
still.
It sounds different than the other games I've heard, but it could have been him. I have no idea. I can't confirm that.
But I believe if they weren't willing to do that for this movie, they're probably just not putting him in at all. But that's disappointing.
Maybe he didn't want to be in it, though. Maybe he wants, like, Mortal Kombat to be like its own thing at this point. Like, not saying he like because he was involved in Mortal Kombat 11, but I'm just saying like let this movie be on its own standalone thing. Let other people touch it, because last time he touched the movie, it didn't do too good or wasn't good. Well, so maybe that's part fair. Of it too.
I want to see guest characters in the next movie. I want to see other fighting games have a character in that tournament. That'd
be fun. That'd be crazy if they're like, hey, here's a Street Fighter film. Okay, here's a Tekken film. And then the end of like one of the movies are like, we need you to join the Mortal Kombat Initiative or something like that.
Yeah.
And like they're like, yep, you know what? We finally got it, nerds. So you have freaking what's his name? Ryu fight Liu Kang. Sure.
Well, I know in Tekken 7, DLC, like almost, I don't want to say almost because there's way more fighting games, Japanese fighting games than obviously I can name off the top of my head, but they've been collecting as DLC. Here is Akuma, the villain of Street Fighter. Here's Geese Howard, the villain of the SNK fighting games. Here's the villain of this guy or whatever. That's like all the villains in that one. And so it's like, but weirdly enough, I guess it makes sense. All of the Japanese fighting games, like creators and people, they all know each other, and like they do a summit all together where they all reveal stuff at the same time, like on a gigantic Zoom call, and you never see Western developers in there. Like NetherRealm's not a part of that, so I wonder if they are as connected. I'm sure, like fighting games, weirdly enough, don't really compete with each other. They don't make a lot of money, really. Like, they don't make enough money to be like, you're stealing money from us by having your game being sold. They all kind of just sell. So all these guys, that's why you see guest characters all the time in all of these freaking games, is because they only help each other. So I'm sure there's no antagonistic feelings with, like, the Western people, but it almost seems as if they don't really communicate all that much with NetherRealm. I don't know. But I think we both agree that this movie was very fun. I'm not necessarily surprised because I expected it to be. I would be surprised and be like, wow, they fucked up if it was bad. But it wasn't, so I'm not going to necessarily say this was a giant monumental win. I expected this, or at least they damn well should have done at least this, if you want my time and appreciation. I think that's kind of where we are now with these giant summer blockbusters that are based on things that already exist, right?
Yeah.
But any good video game movie is a step in the right direction. After Monster Hunter, we
needed a rebound. We needed a rebound.
Right.
And we got it.
We had a good video game movie for 2021. We'll see what happens with Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, I think is the full name.
We
can
get
of the
another one right after this, then we're going places. I'm trying
to think.
We need to put another win in the win column, because I think it started with Detective Pikachu. We had one dub. Okay, we had Sonic. That's another dub. And then Monster came out. That's an L. All right, now we're 2-1 here. Okay, now we're in 3-1. Let's not go back. Keep on the winning streak here. Stack them wins, as they say in sports.
And it's obviously all graded on a curve. You could argue Warcraft was a win for some people. It wasn't really for us. We thought it was kind of just very limited and boring. We did not see the Angry Birds movie. We did not see Ratchet and Clank.
Maybe it's critically acclaimed.
I hear they're both very bad, or they're both very, very bad. But so this year was supposed to also have Tomb Raider 2. But other than that, there is no major video game movie penned for this year, unless one that didn't have a date all of a sudden is going to drop a trailer and
Uncharted?
Be like this year. That's next year, buddy.
I thought it was Christmas again.
That is February 11th, 2022.
Okay, maybe that's our win for 2022 then. Maybe that's our
well, no, the win is going to be Sonic the Hedgehog too.
Yes, that's true. I'm saying like on our calendar we could like I know like when every time the NFL schedule comes out, I go through and I write like win-loss, like my predictions, and be like, okay, this is a good schedule, this is a bad schedule. See, on my schedule, I'm like, Uncharted better be a dub, or else that's going to be a tough L.
We heard that Tom Holland said he regrets doing what he did in that movie. So, during filming, the way he portrayed his character. But yeah, and then other than that, Super Mario Brothers is 2022. But that was announced a long time ago.
I was going to say, is that still happening at this point?
It's still happening. That's a major venture for
I'm
Nintendo
saying, like,
and Illumination.
I haven't heard,
but
we haven't even seen,
date,
like for Sonic 2, we've seen at least some, like, leaked images. Like, I haven't seen anything for this Mario.
Well, it's CG. It's not live action.
It's all CG?
No
so it's not a Sonic level?
No.
Okay.
It's by the Despicable Me and Minions studio. It is just pure animation.
Well, if you don't get a trailer by the end of the year, then I'm going to be a little nervous.
I wouldn't be surprised if we were supposed to see one last year, but they were like, well, no, let's not. You know what I mean? Movies are all in flux. Everything's moving. Why give a date when we're going to be fighting?
Or the trailer you can only
space?
watch for 5 months, and then after March 31st, it won't.
Maybe they just decided it's kind of gross to have a movie after they executed Mario. You know?
Yeah, it's bad taste.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, like, I think we read this recently. There's a Detective Pikachu 2 movie that is definitely happening. There's that Borderlands movie which keeps getting casting, and Dynasty Warriors I mentioned earlier in the episode, which actually looks really cool. Metal Gear Solid seems like that's actually happening.
Finally.
Other than that, there's a lot of, like, Capcom says there's going to be a Mega Man game. You know, Square Enix says
maybe not
there's going to be
after
a Just
Monster
Cause
Hunter. I don't
movie.
know. Maybe
Movie.
Maybe they're like, I don't know about that.
Sega says there's going to be a Yakuza movie. Ubisoft says there's going to be a Werewolves Within movie. I don't know what that is, but
I don't know.
Apparently Ubisoft
that's news
owns
to
that.
me, and I think that's
There's
been
a
on
Just
our
Dance
list for a
movie.
while.
Like, names have been thrown out that have been sold or licensed to studios, but, like, those first few I mentioned, those are the ones that are, like, actually things. Regardless of if they truly happen, they are attempted. And there's that Last of Us HBO show, which films this year.
Yeah, I think later this year.
That's cool. Or maybe already is filming? I don't know.
I think they just announced casting, so I think it would be later this year.
Makes sense. Oh, that's right. They're the budget on it
Pedro
was
needs
like really high.
the summer off anyway. He's been doing too much stuff. Let him.
They're going to do
rest.
like the different seasons or something too for it too. Whatever. We're not talking about that anymore. So I think we both really liked this Mortal Kombat movie. I think we're going to see a sequel. Like I said, I think they'll just try. Even if this movie fails, they have an easy excuse.
I hope it does well in the box office. It's like Godzilla vs. Kong. I like when my shit finally does well. Like, that's cool. So I would like another one. Why not? Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, sure. Especially if it's going to be on HBO Max, which I canceled as soon as I finished watching this movie because I have nothing else.
See, now you're going to hurt the numbers. So they're going to be like, wow, that Mortal Kombat was so bad. He ended his subscription.
Yeah. Yeah, when I type in the other field, it'd be like, that Mortal Kombat movie was terrible. Subscribe.
I've never seen something so bad.
When I finished watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm subscribed from Disney Plus, and one of the options there is, the show I'm watching is done now. It's straight up being like, are you, like, I wonder if this is, because the next Marvel thing is in like 2 months or something, next Marvel show. So
what, Loki, right?
Definitely. Yeah, it's like not right away. So cool.
Bad
Give
on
me
them.
a couple months off.
Can't keep me.
Exactly. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, which obviously airs every week. This one was a little bit early, but it's going to appear on Sundays. We're going to be talking about Sonic news, movie news, and video game movie news every single week. So thank you guys for sticking around for this one.
Chronicles of Diesel, too.
Yep, that's going to be the day before this episode, before the next episode airs. So you'll see that soon as well. We're going to be talking about a movie we've never heard about, which we still haven't seen yet.
Which is like half these films so far.
Right.
But
it's on this very same feed. It's called The Chronicles of Diesel, a chronological exploration of everything Vin Diesel, his games, his albums, his solo experiences,
the man, the myth, the legend.
His ventures into South Korean scooter ads, his attempts at singing. All of these things is on The Chronicles of Diesel, the first of every single month, like May 1st. Check out the show on Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. My name was Ethan. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin is
And
on
I changed
Twitter
my
at
Twitter.
CU. Oh, you did.
I finally did it.
You listened to me.
At
You
Persona
finally
Fun.
listened.
I did it. I changed it.
Okay. At CURSONAFUN.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I finally updated
We'll
it.
see.
Yeah.
Okay. God damn it. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. Goodbye.
Test your might. Got him.
Street Fighter's better.